listening to ABC News Radio.
Hello, I'm Tamara Wern. Thank you so much for your company this Tuesday, the 2nd of September. Coming up.
AI is changing child sexual abuse material and the landscape in Australia.
Playing catch-up, there are fresh calls for better government regulation of AI to protect children from abuse. We'll take you to Pawnpukka to see how locals are coping with the intense search for accused police killer Desi Freeman. And Labor is defending delaying the rollout of its aged care reforms. Now, politicians, policing authorities and child protection experts will meet at Parliament House in Canberra today to ensure child protection remains a priority in Australia's approach to artificial intelligence. Now, this comes as the independent MP, Kate Chaney, advocates for legislation to criminalise possession of tools built for the purpose of making child abuse material. Now, while it's an offence to possess or share child abuse material, there is no criminal prohibition on downloading or distributing the wave of emerging AI generators designed to create the illegal material. Now, Terry Goldsworthy is the Associate Professor in Criminal Justice and Criminology at Bond University, and he joins us now. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
First of all, how would criminalising the possession of AI tools, so that's kind of the programs or apps used for making child abuse material, close a loophole that currently exists in the law?
Well, it is a gap that we have there. I mean, if you look at the child abuse material offences, primarily they're aimed at possession type offences. So what we've got now is the emergence of new technology, that being AI, which has come forward. And as the Esafety Commissioner has noted, you know, we've got AI coming forward. It's rapidly advancing technology. But what's happened is that it's been misused or weaponised by perpetrators to create child sexual exploitation material. And that was something that wasn't anticipated, I guess. And, you know, we see these things from time to time with new technologies. For instance, when 3D printers came out, there was a parliamentary inquiry into how we deal with those things in terms of them being used to produce weapons, etc. So advancements in technology will bring along benefits to society, but unfortunately much of the time that technology can also be used for illicit purposes. And that's what I think this Act is designed to fix, or this bill in modifying the criminal code. So it'll be looking at stopping people downloading technology that the sole or dominant purpose of the technology is to create child abuse material, and that is the key part of this bill.
And this bill is a private member's bill there. Is there a kind of murky area? Because sometimes a lot of these apps and tools also rely on AI, which draws from real images of children there. How will that be tackled in a bill like this? Or does there need to be separate provisions there for the use and repurposing of images of children in this way?
Look, the definition of child abuse material under the Crimes Act already covers material that has been altered or manipulated to make a child appear to be involved in one of those aspects that comes under child abuse material. So I think the definition already covers those type of issues you're talking to. The bill doesn't actually provide any extension of the definition for child abuse material. It's solely looking at the use of those technologies. So apps that, you know, traditionally were, I guess, located in what we call the deep web, which normal surface web crawlers can't access. But what we have seen is that some of these apps, etc., are now becoming available on the surface web. So there was a report by the Internet Watch Foundation which showed that these AI-generated child abuse imagery issues were becoming available on the surface web, and they were being commercialised. And that was noted by Kate Chaney when she put this forward, that there'd been an increase in the business of monetising, these kind of internet forums that generate explicit generative AI tools to assist people in creating the images.
There's also issues as well. Often we talk about children and child abuse material, and we tend to think of very young children in that context. But there's also issues here that this legislation could address in creating deep fakes and things like revenge pornography amongst young teenagers as well. Would this kind of legislation address how technology and AI is being used for those purposes?
Look, I don't think it would. It's quite specific in terms of the technology being used to create child abuse material. So we do know that, deep fakes is talking about hyper-realistic multimedia content that shows people as being naked, etc., engaged in certain acts. The bill as it stands only would apply to child abuse material. So I don't think it would capture necessarily someone who perhaps deep fakes an adult and engaged in inappropriate or non-consensual intimate positions, etc., or purposes. So it's probably limited in that regard. You'd need to expand it where it says the sole or dominant purpose for the technologies to create child abuse material. You'd need to extend that out to non-consensual intimate images to capture what you're talking about, I think.
And what are the avenues and challenges when it comes to regulating AI using legislation and laws? Could it be possible to end up with a kind of whack-a-mole scenario where your legislation is struggling to keep up with just how technology is changing and advancing?
Oh, look, it's certainly a challenge for law enforcement. The report I referred to before showed an increase in AI-generated child sexual abuse material. It showed that the images were becoming more severe in terms of the forms of abuse being portrayed. There was the use of these materials to create videos, not just still images, etc. So there's a proliferation of these type of apps going on. And the problem is, you really are playing catch-up to some degree if you're the law enforcement. And the E-Commissioner has noted that there's challenges in policing AI-generated abuse. So what we, look at this bill, we kind of take the process that we're trying to, it's almost like a crime prevention measure that we're trying to stop the production, people accessing tools to produce child abuse material rather than looking at the end where they've got possession of the material. So I think there's merit in this bill. It's certainly worthy of discussion to see how they're going to go forward. What you also would need to consider is the resources that would need to be put into a unit or a policing response to this in terms of, as you said, monitoring the web to identify those potential technologies that would fall under this offence section if it was to be placed into the Criminal Code Act.
And where else do you see there are gaps here in current legislation when it comes to AI and the use of AI tools in creating and disseminating child abuse material?
Look, I think if you have a look at AI, it's it's gone from being where you could just ask a question to now we're using heavily now to generate images. I use it to generate images for my lectures at university, etc. I mean, there are restrictions on the main ones. I've had, asked for images about criminal justice issues and it hasn't produced them. It said, no, this is a conflict, I can't do it. The problem is, I think the challenge is that we don't want to see the progression of these type of tools from the deep web or the dark web, which is where most of the criminal activity occurs, onto the surface web. That's where it becomes problematic because then you can have a far wider potential audience of people who may, because it's available on the surface web, start using it. So I think we need to be very careful that these kind of tools and apps are not legitimised in terms of being able to gather momentum and being available online and being monetised businesses for people. We need to make sure we keep them off the surface web and deal with them as they appear on the deep and dark web.
Terry, thank you so much for your insights and for your time today.
Thank you.
That's Terry Goldsworthy, who's an Associate Professor in Criminal Justice and Criminology at Bond University.